Hello everyone, welcome to the Knowledge Dhaba, and today we have a very special guest, Ajay, who scored an outstanding 705 marks in NEET, and currently he is pursuing his MBBS from JIPMER. He is in fifth semester, and he was my student. So I will discuss today in this Zoom meeting. We will discuss about his study strategies and whatever the challenges he experienced during his NEET preparation and his valuable advice for the NEET aspirants. Welcome, Ajay. It is wonderful to have you here. Uh, so tell me something what you are doing now and how is your life now?
Hello everyone. I am Ajay. I'm in third year studying in JIPMER Pondicherry. So I have written a NEET 2023 with a score of 705 out of 720 and a rank of 165. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what inspired you to become a doctor? Why you choose only NEET?
Initially, it was specifically because I felt biology more interesting, and maths was not really something which made me interested, which is why I chose the biology course. But over time, as I studied biology and was more involved in it, I uh, realized that medicine is my calling, uh, and yeah, so that's the main reason.
Okay. And when did you seriously start preparing for the NEET? In which class?
I started preparing for NEET specifically after my class 10, but I was not really regular with it. I think class 12 was when I got completely serious about the exam and I prepared with full focus for the exam.
So in class 11th means what you started in class 12th. So in class 11th, what type of problem was there so that you were not
Uh,
focused on NEET?
Yeah, class 11 was especially after COVID. So classes were completely online and we were locked in our rooms for a very long time. Even we did not write our 10th standard board exams as well. So
Okay.
maintaining a schedule and focusing completely academically was definitely a huge challenge for me, which is why I felt it difficult to focus on the exam and focus on my preparation. However, I did a basic reading in 11th standard, but I was not fully into preparing for the exam or taking the exam very seriously. Towards the end of my 11th standard, when school started to open and I started going to my college regularly, that is when my schedule was more regular and I could prepare for the exam completely.
Okay. And
Yeah.
what was your daily study routine during the preparation?
I was a very morning person during my preparation, so I used to get up at around 4:30 in the morning, and I used to study for around 2.5 3 hours, and I used to go to college at 8, and our college used to be until 4:30, and we had an option to sit in the college and study until 7:30. So that was the last I used to study every day. So beyond 7:30, I used to just come back home, have dinner, and go to sleep. So that was my daily schedule. I don't follow that right now, but then yeah, so that was my schedule during the.
Okay. So during the NEET preparation, what we are finding that the time management in this all.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
how you are doing the time management?
Time management is mainly two aspects, one during preparation and one during the exam. The exam thing is a little short, so I'll go with that first. Exam specifically comes only with practice. More the number of papers you solve, you will get an idea of how to manage time in your exam. So I can give an example of what I used to do. So suppose our exam used to start at 2 o'clock. I used to note down when I start biology, say 2 p.m. And if I finish biology, I note that time down as well, say 2:45. So after finishing the paper, when I sit for analysis of the paper, I used to look at how much time I used to spend for each subject. And I used to accordingly work on that, whether I'm spending more time or less time on a subject. and plan accordingly for the next exam. So that is time management as far as exams are concerned. Time management as far as preparation is concerned is extremely individualistic. It is extremely dependent on what your strengths and weaknesses are. So someone can find biology easy, someone can find biology difficult, someone can find physics easy, someone can find physics difficult. So it mainly depends on what you think is difficult for you. You need to spend more time on that. You need to practice questions more in that subject, and you need to divide time accordingly. So I don't think you have to divide time equally for physics, chemistry, and biology. That does not make sense. You need to divide time based on what your strengths and what your weaknesses are.
Okay, so means for you, which subject was the most difficult while
I
preparation?
Yeah, I think towards the end of 11th, physics was quite difficult for me. I never focused on physics in the beginning of my NEET preparation. That was mainly because I had an objective of scoring only 120, 130 marks, and I always thought that I could not score beyond that because I'm not good at physics. I am not interested in physics. However, once I realized my problems with the subject and what my weaknesses are, I worked on that, and that was the most amount of time I spent. Towards the end of 11th, beginning of 12th, for around 6 months, I think physics was the subject I spent the most time on. I hardly spent time on biology and chemistry. Actually, in my weekly tests, uh, biology and chemistry, there were certain weeks where I scored less because I had to spend more time on physics. But the time I spent on physics was worth it because that time and the effort I put at that time uh, was actually fruitful towards the end when physics was actually the easiest subject out of the three.
And I want to share with my viewers that he told that his physics was weak, but he was the person that scored 100 out of 100 in JEE mains two times.
Yeah,
So, as he told in last, he found that physics was easy. So, you tell to all the aspirants, those are preparing for the NEET examination, because
yeah, yeah,
uh, yes, I can understand many different students having different issues, different subject. They are having different. For example, some students having physics is strong subject, some students biology, maybe some chemistry. But what I observed that 90% students, 90% students, those are preparing for the NEET.
mhm,
For them, physics is a problematic subject.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
what will you say to those students, those are
mhm,
facing the problem in physics, and
yeah.
how to start their preparation so that they can get the good marks in physics?
I think the first problem with many of the aspirants in the exam is the attitude towards the subject. I think the general understanding and the general attitude towards physics is that it is a subject which is not necessary, which is very unnecessary for the exam, and which is not of any use in the future. I think that attitude specifically is a major reason why most of the people are not really interested in physics, whoever appear for the exam. Uh, the first thing everyone needs to understand is that physics as a subject develops critical understanding in you, which is extremely necessary in a professional course like MBBS. You cannot pass through MBBS by only remembering and mugging up whatever is there in your textbooks. Understanding concepts in MBBS is a huge necessity, and developing a critical understanding at such an early stage using subjects like physics is also very important and very beneficial. And apart from that, medically speaking, physics is very much useful in different wings of medicine, be it physiology, ophthalmology. And I can give many examples for that matter. So that thinking about physics is something which needs to be changed. And as far as preparation and strategy towards the subject is concerned, I think having an understanding of what kind of questions they ask in NEET is very necessary. I think the general trend in NEET is that physics is usually easy, uh, barring last year's paper 2025. NEET is generally easy. It is direct questions, not very complex, doesn't take more than a minute, maximum 1.5 minutes to solve. So any aspirant's first objective is to solve and understand those kind of questions. So understanding the core basics of a chapter, solving questions related to that, and making sure you spend enough time on solving questions like that. that should be the primary objective of any aspirant. Beyond that, there are definitely multiple reference books one can refer. There are multiple papers of multiple mock tests which one can solve to develop one's problem solving skills. But I think all of this can only be achieved after a good understanding of the concept. And this is something I learned very late. I think I jumped into solving questions too early into my preparation, that I did not understand the value of knowing concepts, understanding concepts, and grasping them very properly. Because having a good understanding of the concept can make you solve any question. Uh, and that is something I would want to say, especially for a paper like NEET 2025. Uh, Despite the fact that the paper was difficult, I think those individuals could solve the paper who had a good conceptual understanding. A book like, say, H.C. Verma played a major role in my preparation to get a good understanding of the concept. I initially used to spend around 2 to 2.5 hours just reading one chapter of H.C. Verma. That was hardly 4 to 5 pages. I used to spend so much time in studying that book to understand each line and more specifically each word of what he wants to say. And despite spending so much time, it was all worth it in the end when I could solve any kind of problems with the kind of concept I had. And that is something which probably also helps me score well in both my JE attempts, where conceptual understanding, as I've already mentioned multiple times, plays a major role. After understanding the concept, I think solving questions is not a huge task, but still solving more questions plays a huge role, especially in an exam like NEET. The kind of pattern the NEET paper is completely different from the kind of pattern the JE paper is. JE paper expects you to solve 20 questions in an hour. So you nearly have 2 to 3 minutes for each question, unlike the NEET paper where you have hardly a minute for each question. So the speed of solving your questions plays a major role. And so solving more reference books, and if you're part of any coaching and studying anywhere, solving those materials specifically also plays a huge role. I personally used to follow this book called Errorless. I don't know. I think not many people use it nowadays.
Mhm.
It's a thick book which has uh, questions from state entrance exams, engineering, and medical exams from the last around 15 to 20 years. So it is a thick book. Each chapter has around say 300 to 400 questions. So what I used to do specifically was that our weekend exams used to be on Monday, so I used to finish studying the concept and solving basic questions by around Thursday and Friday. So on Friday and Saturday every week I used to sit with this book and I used to just solve all the questions in this book. And this book does not have very complex questions. It has basic previous year questions. That way I got a basic understanding of how questions are asked in competitive exams, what they expect out of you. And there are certain topics in each chapter which is repeated almost on a yearly basis. So one needs to understand and grasp those topics specifically. So having that strategy with the subject, especially you're very weak in, plays a very important role.
So I will just summarize this for example, if anyone is preparing now and he is in class 12th, uh,
Yeah,
with any cause in class 11th, he was not able to focus that much.
yeah, yeah,
And in class 12th, he is a good
yeah.
student, he has good base, and
Mhm.
he wanted his preparation with more focus in class 12th. So
Yeah,
how should his starting point should be? For example, if he is starting physics in his chapter like electrostatics, so
yeah,
in the
yeah.
class, if teacher is teaching
Mhm.
electrostatics, after that, what he has to do? For example, today, Monday, his class will start with
Mhm.
electrostatics. So
Mhm.
once lecture will complete, what his starting point should be? So you can tell me about this.
Yeah. The starting point of anyone who's attended a class is to take notes from that class. I think passive listening and passive learning is the worst thing anyone can do for a competitive exam. So one needs to actively listen, understand, and note whatever a teacher is teaching. Read through those notes line by line, have an understanding, and clear one's concepts by Tuesday or Wednesday. That is, by 1 or 2 days, you can have 1 or 2 days is enough amount of time for you to understand a concept, read through books, and learn it. And I would specifically mention that I personally believe NCRT is not a book to get your concepts clear. NCRT is something you need to study in the end. So there are multiple books to develop your conceptual understanding. There are certain people who prefer DC Pandey. I preferred H.C. Verma. There are multiple books. I think a lot of aspirants who are appearing for the exam would know about such books. So conceptual understanding, even if it takes 3 to 4 days for you, you need to spend that much time, because towards the end of the preparation, towards March, April, you will not have the time to sit through and read through line by line about any chapter. At the end of your preparation should only and only be for question solving. So, as much as possible, try clearing all your concepts in the beginning of your preparation whenever you have your weekly test for specific chapters. After understanding your concepts, solving questions related to that chapter is very important, especially for a subject like physics. You cannot score well without solving questions, and that is something everyone would know. So solving a good number of questions is very necessary. Solving around 40 to 50 model questions, which is usually in your question banks or in your coaching materials, should be more than fine. After getting an overview of the chapter and after having solved a few model questions, then you can move to reference books or you can move to previous year question books. There are multiple question banks which have all previous year questions. So you can move to such materials and solve those materials to get an even better understanding. So and that is especially for you to get to know what kind of questions they ask in NEET and JEE specifically. After finishing all this, you need to have an overview of NCRT, and I think that is extremely necessary for an exam like NEET. Probably I wouldn't recommend that for an exam like JEE, but reading the NCRT superficially for physics is necessary. Again, this is a mistake a lot of people do. I think a lot of people read physics NCRT just like biology NCRT, where they read line by line. That is really not necessary, and passive reading in physics NCRT is not going to help. Physics NCRT, unfortunately, is a little on the difficult side. It is not very explanatory. It is not simple to understand. It is not easy to read. So you need to have a superficial read over it and find those parts which you think can be asked for exams. NTA specifically picks assertion reason questions and statement based questions directly out of NCRT. Be it the NCRT text, or I would specifically mention NCRT examples in the end questions in NCRT chapters. The exercise questions and example questions in every chapter of physics is extremely important, because I remember the NEET before ours, I think in NEET 2022, around 2 to 3 statement based questions or assertion reason questions were straight out of NCRT. Uh, they were lines in NCRT, they were from examples in NCRT. Certain numericals, the numbers weren't even changed. So, reading NCRT strategically is very important. So, you need to solve all examples, all exercise questions, and if one has time, they can also go through NCRT exemplar. I think these three are have a very good set of questions which develops your critical thinking, because NCRT exercise questions at the end of each chapter are not direct questions. They are questions which needs time, which needs thinking, which needs understanding. So such questions will actually help you a lot in case of papers which are difficult. So I
So,
think this kind of preparation in the for 1 week should be enough for any chapter.
so you started your NCRT in the last, or every week you
Yes.
are doing the NCRT?
I realized it in the middle of my 12 that NCRT is necessary. For
Hmm.
someone who is listening to this in the beginning of their 12, it is preferable that they start it from the beginning so that towards the end they don't have any difficulty.
And many students having one question, that how many hours we have to study for the preparation. So is the hour is important, or you have to complete your concept that is important?
Yeah, I don't think NEET is has a lot of syllabus. NEET is a syllabus where even if you start in 12th standard, you can honestly finish the syllabus very well. You can finish the syllabus multiple number of times. So this exam, more than the number of hours, it demands the number of hours you work strategically and smartly. There are people who I know have studied for 11 hours, 12 hours every day and still have not scored a great score, because they don't have a specific objective or a specific strategy in which they're approaching the exam. Personally, I used to study for around 4 to 6 hours a day, and I know people who've studied lesser than me. Uh, But yeah, it all depends upon what works for you. There are towards the beginning of my 12th, I definitely spend more time to understand physics. So it depends from person to person. There is no fixed time which you need to study every day. Some days you might study more, some days you might study less. That all depends upon, at the end of the day, you need to finish the syllabus and finish the necessary amount of questions you need to solve.
Mm. And I have seen some students, those are good in their concepts also. They are doing very good and they are solving the questions also. But
Mm-hmm.
what happens? They are not able to score in
Mm-hmm.
exams.
Yeah, yeah,
So, because I have seen your one phase in which you were studying, but you are not able to score. So,
yeah, yeah,
with your experience, what do you want to suggest them where they are doing the mistake?
yeah,
Because after doing everything, and
yeah.
finally they are not able to score, and they are feeling bad. So, what they should do so that their marks should improve?
Yeah. Analysis of each paper you solve is extremely important, and that is something I realized very late in my preparation. So I think analysis of every paper you solve. So beginning from every question, a lot of people might tell that you need to just analyze those questions you went wrong, but I believe you need to analyze each and every question in the paper. Once you're done with the paper, you need to sit with that paper for around 2 to 3 hours again that evening, and you need to go through every question, and you need to go through what you went through in the exam when you were solving that question. Were you confused in that question? Why were you confused? Did you not understand the concept, or do you not remember the concept, or did you not solve enough number of questions, or whether you did all this and it was a silly mistake? This is something you really need to understand. So finding that specific step which is problematic is very necessary. If you find that step, whether you don't remember or whether you don't understand, then you can work on solving that specific issue. So, and that works for all subjects. It's not specifically only for physics. It's for both for chemistry and biology. And going back to those topics, rereading those topics, re-understanding those topics, and solving certain questions related to that topic is very important. Uh, our weekly exams used to be on Monday, and we used to not study anything new on Monday after the exam. The whole day after the exam from 5 p.m. till the night was just for paper analysis. It was just for going through the questions again, analyzing and rereading all those concepts in all the three subjects, which uh, uh, which would make us not repeat the mistake again. And especially when you're writing full syllabus exams towards the end, if there are certain topics where you're repeating mistakes again and again, where you're repeating the same silly mistakes again and again, you need to actually go back to that topic and spend as much time as possible on that topic.
Correct. And I have seen few students during the preparation when they are giving their best also. Sometimes they are
Yeah.
not getting the expected result. And
Hmm.
what happens, they get demotivated.
Hmm.
And sometimes they are crying also and
Hmm.
they demotivated. What do you want to tell to those students? Because what I'm saying that this is the not the last uh, whatever the preparation you whatever the preparation you are doing is not the last
Yeah.
thing. You have to do so
Yeah.
many things in the life. So
Yeah.
what is your suggestion for those students, because seats are limited, everyone cannot get the
Yeah.
NEET seats?
Yeah. 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 Every day is not going to be a good day. There are certain days which are good, where there are certain days which are bad. So, in during your preparation, you really can't expect you to perform well every day, or you cannot expect you to perform well always. Uh, Consistency plays a major role. If you're consistent towards your goal, if you're consistent towards what you want to score, the results will come on its own beyond the time. You need to enter the exam hall with an attitude that you really can't predict what's going to happen. You need to give your fullest, you need to give your best, and you need to put in all the effort during your 3 years. After that, marks and rank is definitely not in your hand. So I don't think getting an MBBS seat or getting a good rank or getting a good college is the only objective in life. You really don't know what life has for you beyond that. You really don't know the turns life might take uh, for you later on. So yeah, I would want to say that.
And how is the MBBS life different from the what you expected?
Yeah, my initial thinking of the course was that okay, it's just studying the whole time. Uh, there's nothing apart from studying, but I don't think the course is like that. You get used to the course after a few months. Definitely, the initial few months will be a little difficult. Uh, it is new for you. The syllabus is vast. The amount of knowledge you need to grasp in a very limited amount of time is actually huge. But you get used to it. You will slowly get interested in it, and yeah, the main thing was definitely that you get a huge practical exposure, and you don't have to always study as what people say about the course.
Yes. And
Yeah,
here, you know that this time what happened, the paper leak, and due to that, the
hmm,
re-NEET is
yeah, yeah,
happening in the
yeah,
next
yeah.
month.
Uh-huh.
Second time exams
Hmm,
are happening,
hmm.
and many
Yeah,
students have done well in this exam, the last
yes.
exam.
Uh-huh.
So, what is your advice for those students, because
Uh,
they are feeling pressure, second time again examination they have to
yeah.
write. So,
One needs to definitely be optimistic in such times. Keeping your calm and preparing for the exam is the only option one has. It is definitely a re-NEET is better than those who have benefited out of the paper league getting ranks. So the paper is being conducted again in a free and fair manner. Everyone needs to write the exam again, and that is the truth. So NTA is definitely testing all the aspirants' patience. Everyone needs to be patient and calm and write the exam again. And definitely, you need to be optimistic and aspire to score more than what you've scored before. You would have scored before well as definitely, but yeah, you definitely need to take this as a second chance for you to score better than what you've scored earlier.
thank you, Ajay, for sharing
Yeah,
your valuable experience and insights. I'm sure our students will learn a lot of from your journey and preparation strategy.
yeah.
And to all our viewers, if you found this discussion helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to Knowledge Dhaba. We will continue bringing inspiring success stories and useful guidelines from the students. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode. Thank you.